January 2019 Community Action Council. And before I roll into the agenda, I'd like to turn it over to Colonel Lang for some opening comments.
Hey, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Adam Lang, I'm the Deputy Installation Commander. I'm sitting in for Trish Shank this morning. She apologizes she can't be here because of the earthquake. We have several times tried to do what we call strategic mapping for the 673rd Air Base Wing. It's really an internal look. We basically locked ourselves in a room with a bunch of coffee, and we don't let anybody out until we try to solve our own internal problems and see where we're going, mission statement, do we have the right focuses, things like that. So very important event that's going on this morning. She can't be here, so I'm standing in. I want to say, happy holidays, happy New Year. Hope everybody had a chance to take a knee, spend some time with family and friends. We got through the earthquake, that's good. We're still working through the assessment piece of that, running up what the cost is going to be to the installation so that we can get that up to service flagpole, so that we can get some of the necessary repairs made. But we're back to business again. And part of the new year and the new initiative is kind of a new Community Action Council. We rolled this out last month. Trish talked about it a little bit. We're trying to make this a little bit more interactive, right? So it's less running 20 briefers in front of you. We can push that in slides. We want to pick a couple of interesting topics that may be somewhat contentious on the installation and brief what we think that the issue is and hear your questions and what your thoughts are on the problem and see if we can come up with some solutions. But then we're going to push the slides to you. You can read those at your leisure. Please get the information to your formations after that. But today we got a couple of them. Old Man Winter finally decided to make a visit to us, both in the temperatures and in the snow, right? So for a while it looked like we weren't going to have a true Alaska winter, but it finally came. And even though we talked about it before the snow season, what the snow removal procedures are, as soon as we got a big dump of snow, all of a sudden we got probably 40 or 50 ice complaints and telephone calls about just what are the procedures for clearing snow. So, hey, we're going to review it again. We're going to talk about it, how it impacts your organization, how it impacts the housing areas, okay, because it's an emotional topic. And then I know we got some problems, or we perceive we have some problems with the appointment line. So we have someone that's going to address that issue with that particular topic this morning. After that, it's open mic, all right? So we're going to pass this thing around. If you've got something burning, let's talk about it. We may not have the answer here, but we'll find subject matter experts and we'll run down the problem for you, okay? All right, Gary, over to you.
Thanks, sir. So just like any meeting, we'll just kind of go over the purpose real quick. I'm not going to read this all to you, but ideally we'll be here for about an hour because we, everybody values their time, but we think this is important information. And like the Colonel said, the real big deal is to try to get this information back out to your formations and your own networks. And you can see what we're trying to do there. The Colonel kind of covered that on his intro. And here's what we're going to go over. Obviously the snow removal and the appointment line, those two things will come up here in a second. I'll go over some calendar highlights, and they're kind of like the mission calendar. So it's not your MWR events per se, but it's things that are going on that may or may not impact your units as you either try to interact with other units or maybe you provide support to some of those things that are going on. So there'll be some kind of mission-related things that are going on this very busy installation. And then we'll also, to the Colonel's point, do that open forum town hall. So definitely want some questions. That could be a point if there's something significant that you think the entire population should be aware of, some kind of an announcement you want to make, that's fine too. But really, we're looking for some feedback so we can get after some issues here that we may or may not be aware of. And then we'll wrap it up with the leaders there at the end. And then a lot of the other slides that you would have normally seen if you've been here before that get briefed one by one up here, those will be in the brief when I send that out. Look for it on the JBER page. I'll reattack that at the end of the brief.
Hey, Gary, can you confirm
yes, sir.
We are Facebook or whatever
yeah.
we're calling it live?
That's a good point. Thanks, sir. So, and the other thing, what we're doing here, we started this last month in Fort Wainwright. If you've been up there and seen their CAC, they've been doing it for a little while. Is we have a live feed going out on YouTube Live on the YouTube channel. So you could view this, or people that can't make it here for various reasons could view this that way. I will also make sure that PA, once this is done, there may be some cleanup on the video. We'll put that on the JBER homepage as well, and I'll talk to that. You'll be able to go back and review that anytime at your leisure. So you can see the actual meeting happen, or you can just go in there and get the slides at your leisure. All right, so we have a couple of briefs, and this is our first one. So if Colonel Leck or Ms. Hodson from Aurora Housing, I think they're going to kind of dual brief this?
No.
Yeah.
I'll let you cover the Aurora stuff, Rachel.
Can't wait.
Okay. Good morning. So I'm Lieutenant Colonel Leck. I'm the commander of the 773rd Civil Engineer Squadron. I'm going to run through kind of the scenario on how we work when we have a snow event. It starts off, as you can see, at 0445. We have the commander starting to have a discussion between the Civil Engineer Group and the Mission Support Group commander that are talking about the road conditions on the base. This timeline is critical because, as you see as we go down, those road conditions then drive potential responses behind them. So we have to link up with both the USARAC schedule, the Air Force schedule, and on top of that, the ASD schedule, that if we turn around by 0525 and make that reporting decision from the wing commander, and that reporting decision is that the roads are all red, and we're going to go to everybody reporting 2 hours late, that impacts ASD, and that impacts USARAC, and it impacts the Air Force and every one of our key partners here on the base. So this timeline is critical. We work this every single day. Most days, like this morning, is pretty mundane. We don't have a snow event going on. Road conditions have pretty much stayed stable since our last snow event, so this process goes really smoothly. When we have snow and icing events, though, this becomes very critical. And our wing commander makes the decision, and then at the very end, we communicate that out through multiple avenues, number one being ad hoc. Was that the question?
No, my question is, does that include the National Guard roads too?
Yeah, so I'll hit the priorities in a second, ma'am, and show you kind of how the roads work and how we look at those. But so this road report that we talk about, this is the entire installation roads. So all the road network around JBER. Okay, next. So this is just a quick little Gantt chart that kind of shows the way that it flows for a decision here. It's really what you saw on the last slide that was all in words that shows it now in a flow diagram that gives us a way that how all that information is consolidated. The reason the MSG and the CEG are linked together is because the CEG takes care of all the snow removal, whereas all of our security forces side of the house and our installation security side is within the MSG. So those guys are looking at the roads, driving the roads they're looking at whether the roads are dangerous or not and looking at pedestrian traffic across it. So that helps us to bring those two things together to make these decisions down at the end where we see that Air Base Wing Commander making the decision and then the notifications that we do through public affairs in the command posts. Any questions on this? Okay, next. All right, that's all I have actually. I'll answer a few further questions in a minute. I'll cover a couple things that are worth it there.
So for the most part, the Aurora mission is obviously to mimic that of JBER. Unfortunately, we've got additional challenges. Most of us, obviously, who have homes, whether at JBER or in Anchorage, have vehicles or multiple vehicles. And we have roller carts for our refuse and for our recycling. And we have kids that are out and about. And unfortunately, all of that stuff makes it very, very tough to maintain the roads in housing. There are over 50 cul-de-sacs. Those are incredibly tough for us to maintain during the winter season, frankly, when you guys are living in your homes. So ultimately, our goal is to contend with a snow event once it gets 2 inches of snow accumulation. The other thing, obviously, we battled, this hasn't been as bad an ice here as many prior, but nonetheless, I'll touch on that if you guys would like to talk ice as well. Once there are 2 inches of accumulation, we reach out to our snow contracting teams, and then those folks, if it's say 10 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., they're going to get out there and they're going to start plowing snow right then and there that day. If it's say 4:45, 5:30, they're probably not going to go out that night. By the time they can get operators out here, get in that equipment, get on the road, we're going to be looking at 7, 8 o'clock at night. So we're going to start taking care of snow in housing the next business day because we are trying very hard to observe quiet hours. I will make one note. Keep in mind, our housing area is amidst the greater JBER area. Many of the roads are actually maintained by civil engineering around the neighborhood. So you are going to have some residual noise because clearly they've got to be maintaining above and beyond the quiet hours to make sure that those main thoroughfares are cleared for all of us, both living and working at JBER. Above and beyond that, we do have a 24/7 maintenance line. If at any time you, your service members see a problem or you drive by that problem, please call. Call that number. We can dispatch either a small plow truck, I mean right then and there within minutes, and at least take care of what could be an emergent situation, and then obviously do follow-up cleanup thereafter. And our priorities are clearly right there. We're probably not going to get to those cul-de-sacs in the priority one, but we're going to get through the main streets, like if you will, you know, those that feed into 5th or 4th here at Richardson, just those as examples, or Fairchild's maintained by CE, but you know, the ones that feed into that, those would be ours. Again, high traffic streets, those are first, and last but not least, those cul-de-sacs are usually going to be the toughest, and we get it, it's tough if you got that small vehicle, you may get stuck, but we will do our best. We do have, again, a maintenance team. We'll get them out there and we'll try and get you out of there temporarily till a plow can get in and take care of that area. Next slide, please. I do have 2 slides of Q&A, and I guess what I'll do is I don't want to read these to you, but if you do have specific questions, the Q&A are there for those things that we hear most often, either through ICE, feedback to our teams, in the office by phone, or what have you. So if you want to open up the floor, throw those questions up there. Yes, ma'am.
If they, for example, I live on a circle, so when they plow the circle, if they miss about 5 feet from that sidewalk, you know, is that something you want me to call maintenance about? Or when they've completed it, they've just done a poor job, is that something you want us to call maintenance about?
First pass, so in 48 hours, I would always tell you, it really is a first pass. There is going to be no perfection in a 2-day turnaround. I'm going to be blunt and honest. Much of that, again, due to either vehicles that are there, moving vehicles. I tell you what, I get pictures every snow event between roads that have multiple moving vans and or their big trucks coming and going. If within 48 hours of that start of that snow event, it should be, if you will, first pass. We're going to be there until we make the actual, you know, near perfection or as close as you can get. But I would say really on that 3rd day, if we aren't there, yes, please do call us. Any other questions for myself or the Colonel? One thing I definitely want to touch, and this has really been a gift to us. We worked with the military housing team about 2 years ago, updated our website and our communications channel, if you will. Please stress to your service members, anyone living on base, we really do a pretty darn good job of communicating when we define a snow event, where we're at, if there are expected delays or what have you, or as happened in December, 3 back-to-back major snow events. We do have a team that makes sure those alerts and communications are up there, but if you haven't given us the go to reach out to you, we can't do it. So you just go to auroramilitaryhousing.com, you opt in, you can opt in just for emergency updates, or you can opt in for everything else, which could be contests or again, you know, things, tips and tricks for living in housing or utilizing our self-help stores or what have you. But please promote this so we can get the word out. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the 2 inches. Where is that? Sometimes there's 2 inches on the
Richardson is routinely
side, and there's, you know, a dusting on the Elmendorf side.
So it really is wherever we hit 2 inches first. And as you know, we've got offices on both sides and staff driving throughout both greater JBER, Richardson or Elmendorf. So as soon as it starts, we are going to have those vehicles go. The 2nd snow event actually in December, we had all vehicles go directly to Richardson, and frankly Elmendorf became the last priority because of the amount of snow here over Elmendorf. So we really do make that decision based on what we find on the streets. And that was communicated on our website too. So we do try to be as honest and upfront about where we're at and where we're focusing our resources per event.
Okay, as promised now, ma'am. Here's how we execute. So you guys, I gave you the brief on where we start every single morning on road conditions. This is how we execute from a road standpoint. Our priority ones are all related to those critical assets that we have for our flying mission. So that's Bryant Army Airfield, and it's also the Air Force side airfield. And then the other things that really come into play is emergency routes. If our emergency responders need to get through to you with an ambulance, that is a priority 1 route. So those main streets on base. The other thing that comes in there is munition routes, and then as you see, USERAC ranges and munition side is also a priority one, but those are driven a little differently. So let's go to the next slide and I'll kind of put it graphically so everybody can see this. The reds are all the priority one routes. It's kind of hard to understand what those roads are. When you look at these slides, you can kind of see them. But the big thing is that shows, this is on the JBER E side. You have Arctic Warrior, part of it, and Sidron that go up toward the airfield. Those are your priority ones. In an active snow event or a large snow event like we had a couple weeks ago, our priority ones get the bulk share of the manpower and the resources. And we come through and we catch those priority twos that you see in yellow. We start hitting those priority twos as we can throughout the night, throughout the day. That's kind of how those work. And then last, as you saw in there, priority 3 is the last priority that we hit. Not even on the map. Why? Because it's the other stuff that is not colored. So the majority of all the parking lots on this base are priority 3. So one of the questions we got is that I work in a critical facility, but my parking lot's not plowed. A critical facility does not necessarily relate to a snow priority, right? A critical facility for me is an electrical substation. Does that mean that I plow a substation before I plow the airfield? And the answer is no. Same with like our wing headquarters over on the east side and the USERAC headquarters over here. Those get plowed, but they're not the top priority because the emergency routes and the operational routes are priority over the top of those. Okay. Next slide will show JBER R. The big difference between JBER E and JBER R, and the folks that have lived here long enough know, JBER E is maintained via my DoD employees, whether wearing a uniform or civilian, and JBER R is maintained via a contract. So same like Aurora's contract, that they have their contractor that comes out with 2 inches of snow, our trigger event is 1 inch of snow for CE to get our contractor out here on JBER R. Now, after that 1 inch of snow, they have multiple requirements. They have 17 days to work and get all the piles out after that. So pretty much once we get a snow event with the Western contractor on JBER R, they are working nonstop and they're going to continue to work. But the big difference is that they are triggered and worked off of a contract, but they still have the requirement to maintain the roads, to keep the ice down, and to keep the snow out of the parking lots. But remember, it's a contract based off of the specifications that they have to deal with, as opposed to me being able to send manpower to different locations. So it's a little bit more of a challenge to get feedback, but your feedback as our customers is critical that we can do that. And every time we get feedback from our customers that we have an issue, we're able to react to that. I can react to your feedback and I can send my contractor where we need that help. But if we don't know that, we can't really get out there to get that help, if that makes sense. Okay, is that it, Chief? Yes. Yep. All right, any questions for me or Rachel related to snow removal as a whole? Yes, ma'am.
Specifically about the contractors, do they live in our neighborhoods or are they an external, completely external group?
Sir, do you mind repeating that question so we can hear you in the back?
Yep, no problem. So the question was, the contractors, in relation to the contractors, do they live in our neighborhoods or are they an external component? So they are external in the sense that they're an external contractor from off base, but the thing I don't know is they may have some of our spouses that are their operators. Does that make sense? They have yards on the base, so their equipment is stored on base. They push and plow snow on base and park their snow on base essentially when they move it. So they're not coming from off base with equipment. So all they're doing is they're driving on base. And some of those members I don't know may live on base, but the majority of them do live off base. Any other questions? All right, the last thing that I'll hammer home, just because it's a nuisance for me and it's an extreme headache all the time. Base parking lots are constantly a challenge for us. The same that they are a challenge for Aurora housing when you have cars parked on the street. Airmen and soldiers, we need to abide by the days that we are out there plowing. We need those cars out of the parking lot. And we are working right now on how we ticket and tow those vehicles if they don't get moved. Because as we saw last year and we continue to see every year, late in the season, those parking lots get so treacherous that you cannot drive a sedan through them. Because the snow is so built up that it creates massive holes and creates serious problems for those vehicles. So please communicate that. The other thing, our work center parking lots are not your RV storage lot. Please communicate that. We've had multiple issues with that this year, and my guys, if they come out there or Western comes out there and there is an RV or a recreational vehicle, a trailer, whatever it may be in that lot, they will plow around it. And that will be stuck there until spring or until you get a shovel and a group of folks to come out there and help you get it out. Because it's not supposed to be there. Okay? Any questions for me before I step up? All right, thank you so much.
All right, so just to review, snow removal, it's a complex operation. There's 3 entities involved with it. On the Air Force side, we've got Air Force blue suiters and government civilians that do it. On the Richardson side, it's done through a contract vehicle. And then Aurora has a contract as well. And there's slightly different nuanced trigger points for all 3 of them. But what I can tell you is, at the installation level, we take it very, very seriously. We read all your comments about it. We address issues as quickly as we can, but there is a complex process. Every morning, at 4 o'clock in the morning, on a known snow event, we are having discussions about what do we need to do to get ahead of safely operating this installation, knowing that we've got so many people coming from the valley. What does that do to the child care piece of this? What are we doing if we are shutting down work or bringing people into work, but kids are staying at the bus stop because schools are closed? All that stuff has to happen every morning, very, very quickly. Decisions made, and then we drive on. Do we get it right 100% of the time? No. No organization's perfect, right? We make those adjustments that we need to afterwards, right? And we try to fix it. The other thing I'll tell you about priorities, every organization is invited to the Snow and Ice Committee, right? We do that pre-season where we talk about what we think the priorities are going to be for the following year. Everybody has a vote if they think they need to change where they are in those priorities. And then at the end of the season, we AAR what we did for snow and ice. And that's another opportunity to say, hey, we think that we need to change our priorities. Jake, how many priority changes did we have coming into the season this year? One, okay? So if there's organizations out there who think you're being slighted based on, hey, you're not getting to me quick enough, I'd say you gotta be in it to win it. Come to the Snow and Ice Committee. You need to voice those concerns. We'll discuss them, and then maybe we'll change the priorities. But we don't see a lot of that, pre-season. We see a lot of complaints during the season, and we don't see any follow-up at the end of the season, okay? We have a full process for that. Everyone's invited, organizationally, okay? All right, Gary, over to you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate the briefing there. Next, we have Major Mike Barnaby from the medical group to talk appointments.
Greetings, everyone. So I'm from the hospital. Colonel Williams couldn't make it this morning. But there is a problem. We do have a problem with our appointment line, and it comes from 2 reasons. First, there's a technical problem, and the second thing is our appointment line is run by a contract. So I'll touch on the first issue. Technical difficulties since November, so the past 3 months, there has been an issue with one of the servers that actually make the appointment line work. We received great news yesterday. The server is fixed. However, there are still some things that base communications have to troubleshoot and figure out. So in the very near future, we don't have a timeline. That server will be fixed, and that'll help. Issue number 1. Issue number 2, the appointment line contract. For the past several months, the staffing level, they have 10 positions, and really it has only been manned by about 4 appointment line clerks. So, as just passed recently, we had some holidays go through. Most of the time, the hospital is very busy after a weekend and then a holiday. So the past several weeks, we just gone through several holidays and several time off. The appointment line has been overloaded with many people calling Monday morning. If 4 people are answering the phone, you can see the major ICE complaint that we're receiving is long wait times on the appointment line. And it's because of those 2 different things. So the solution for the contract is we actually, 2 days ago, we started active duty service members actually answering the phones. So in the next few weeks, you should see some ease and some help with actually speaking to somebody on the phone. So those are the solutions to the two main issues. So what do we do in the meantime? There are two main things, alternative methods that we could use. TRICARE Online. I know if previously you used TRICARE Online in the past, it didn't work, but this system is different. And if you try right now, there are open appointments. If you try to see primary care, we have over 90% of our appointments available on TRICARE Online. So if you want to book with your PCM, that is a great avenue to do it. You can register on it on your phone right now if you'd like. And then the other one is secure messaging. So those are the two main avenues where you can book an appointment. The hospital is open. The hospital, our main goal is to take care of you and help you see your doctor and help your children see their doctors. So we're open. We do have available appointments. The past 4 days, obviously there are appointments that have been booked, but we do still have some access and availability for the patient population. Any questions?
Actually, I got some more information for you on TRICARE Online.
This is actually highly related, so.
Yeah.
So a bunch of you, I put down some flyers and stuff. It's got about the TRICARE Online portal. It also has the how to register for TRICARE Online, which is a web-based website. And also has enrolling into Relay Health. The reason I'm piggybacking is since he's already talking about TRICARE Online, I am trying to get in contact with all the sergeant majors and commanders to get your soldiers enrolled in TRICARE Online and get them enrolled in secure messaging. The way that healthcare is going to be more online care. Right now at the TMC, we're doing PHAs via telephone. We're just trying to improve it. And if you can see here on the panel, I have some in the back too for those that are interested. Soldiers on TRICARE Online, they can schedule their appointments with a PCM, they can cancel them. They have prescription refills. They can go on TRICARE Online and put in those refills as well as schedule a time to pick up the prescription. We have the health record, which they can download their lab results, radiology results, medication profile, and allergy profiles, and so forth. And then they have the service separation retirement and TRICARE Online. And this is for soldiers separating from active duty service or the reserves. It includes how to do a pre-separation claim, and they can schedule a separation history and physical examination. And then you have links in there to secure messaging. Secure messaging is beneficial because your soldier can talk directly to their PCM through secure messaging. Why is this all important? It's all important because it will give you more time with your soldiers. Your soldiers won't be coming into the clinic and for an appointment for a lab test results. They won't be coming into the clinic for an hour appointment just to pick up a refill and such forth. So we're trying to really encourage everybody to get their soldiers enrolled in TRICARE Online. Thanks. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
All right, hey Gary, before you go on, so nobody has any questions about appointments? Because I'll tell you, as the guy who reads all the negative ICE comments every week, I would say 70% of what I read is tied to complaints about the appointments, right? So this is the place to, you see something, you've been, screwed over by the appointment line and you want to get some questions answered, this is the place to do it. Nobody has anything?
Well, I'll ask, you said, that it's a staffing issue over the past 3 months. For myself, personally, over an hour, 3 times in the last month, but 30 minutes to 45 minutes has happened maybe every other month the entire year, and it's always a staffing problem. So is this is it really gonna get better this time? I mean, I didn't ask because the answer seems to always be the same, and it's a staffing issue. I hope so.
That is the goal, ma'am. So on the slide, I did not touch that the new contract is up. So 24 January, it's going to be a new contract, whether it's going to be the incumbent or it's going to be a new contract. And one of the work statement objectives that we really emphasized and harped on was the turnover fill rate, because the previous contract did not have that. So we can hold the contractor accountable for.
It's been a long.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I say it's the same answer, but, and Tractor Online is wonderful. However, if you need to follow up with someone other than your PCO, you need the appointment line and JBER CAC January.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks for that. And keep an eye out for that, and ideally, usually when things get corrected like that, we try to communicate. A lot of that stuff, Public Affairs will push out notes on Facebook. There's other ways to see that. So hopefully, as the Major said, you'll see this improve as we get the contractors in, a little bit different process to hold them there. In the meantime, hopefully those active duty service members will help do some of that load and get that other server working, for sure, advantageous. So appreciate that. All right. As promised, a little bit of calendar. It looks kind of busy, but that kind of is busy. So as you can see, a lot of the yellow from the key down here, a lot of mission operations going on there, whether they're exercises here locally or somewhere else. A lot of stuff going on in the state. You can see there, 3rd Wing is going to be taking a few jets and going somewhere for a little bit to do some wintertime training where it's a little bit more permissible to fly and maintain currency. Couple of holidays there, so our USARAC training holiday, Family Day on the 18th, which will make for a short week there. Right in front of that, you'll see an MAE, a mission assurance exercise, which maybe Colonel Lang will speak to in a little bit. I'm not read in all the way, but I know that some of those things will happen. Things we need to do to stay current is an installation, warfighting platform, to make sure that we can execute and respond to things, make sure the installation is safe and ready to go. So we do those occasionally and try not to disrupt operations too much as those happen. And then you can see, obviously, the 21st is a federal holiday along with a holiday for the school. Some drill on the weekends there, and then that other MAE a week later. Different format, but again, one of those things that we do annually to make sure we're ready here. And then the Joint Wellness, if you don't know what that acronym stands for, it's a long thing. So it's a Joint Wellness Action Council that Colonel Baker from USARAC and my boss, Colonel Chank, co-chair to talk about health and wellness and presenting the installation. Any questions on that? All right, and then rolling into next month, as you can see, some of the same kind of things going on. Obviously, a lot of drill going on the 9th and 10th. A couple of short weeks in there again with training holiday and PACAF Family Day in front of President's Day there. A little bit on the ASD thing. Some of y'all may have heard it online with the earthquake. They're trying to figure out. So that may or may not change. Some of those half-day things in there as they're trying to figure out, I think, how to make up one of those 5 days. But the school board's going to be talking about that downtown to see if they do need to make up any time. If they don't, I suspect that'll probably stay the same. But stay tuned to local news. They'll keep you informed on that. A couple of things right there on that weekend that we call community events. The Army Air Force hockey game, right? So that's going on a little bit later this year than normal. And then there's also the ASYMCA Salute to the Military that evening downtown at the Egan Center. Any questions on this slide? It's a short month. All right. And then what we'll do is we'll roll that. So obviously next month we'll look at February, March, and go from there. So if there's anything that you think, especially if you're an organization that's got things like this going on, I reach out to many of our major mission partners, but if there's something on there that you think impacts the entire installation or something that we need to know, just shoot me that note. And where you get the CAC slides from on the webpage, our inbox is in there. Shoot a note to that. Get me plugged in if you'd like to add things to this calendar. I'll make sure to get on here. All right. And so that's most of the briefings here. And as promised, there's the open forum town hall part. So with that, we'll take questions. If there's any other questions, it doesn't have to be related to what we saw up here already. There's also the opportunity here for the next 20 minutes or so. If there's something that you would like to speak to briefly, especially if we have a lot of people that want to do that, to make a quick announcement, feel free to do that as well. But we're really here to have a two-way dialogue to make sure that we're aware of the issues that are impacting you and how we can get after those, either like the Colonel said, here in the meeting, or if we have a due out to get some answers back, and maybe even if it's big enough, we'll brief it next month right here at the CAC. Floor's open. raise your hand.
Mike, who's got an issue.
This is if you raise your hand, Sergeant Beck will come to you if you want to have a state a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm?
I gotta think now. My name is Wendy. My husband's a user rep commander. I just wanted to briefly bring up there's an issue with the thrift store. I don't know if you guys are aware that it's not a dumping station. We have had several complaints from the Richardson Spouses Club, which is a joint club for Air Force, National Guard, and Army. If you guys would put out to your service members, civilian or not, that they cannot be dumping stuff at the thrift store because it's not a dumping station. Eagle River has free if you're active duty to dump. I'd like to ask Sarah if she'd like to say anything. Sarah's the assistant manager. I know Joe's here as well, the manager of the thrift store. Just what the thrift store brings back to the service members in our community as far as what money's raised. Sarah, would you like to say something, please?
Actually, I'll probably hand it to Joe. She has been there for a long time.
Thank you. Like a rock star all of a sudden. Joe is the manager over there, and I have been volunteering over there for a couple months, really seeing the community coming in, getting what they need, and really the help going back out, and how much monies go out to the community. So she has direct numbers and what it is that you can come and donate and what you can't. So I'll hand it to Joe.
All right, so the Fort Richardson Thrift Shop has been on base and active since the 1950s. We run a program there called the Warrior Program. I don't know if everyone is familiar with that. That is for anyone E5 and below, active or retired. They can receive $25 worth of household items each month and $25 worth of clothing items each month. The issue we're having right now is I know it is a huge PCS time around Christmas holidays, and we have been completely overwhelmed with donations, which we are grateful for, but the amount of trash and the extra work that it creates for us when people leave items that are not reusable is just causing all kinds of stress. It looks like a mess over there. We have so much that we fill our dumpster at least once a week, and it gets dumped for us, which is, you know, we're very grateful for that because we don't want to have to haul it away. But we've been getting items that are unusable, such as refrigerators that are non-working, other appliances, old mattresses, people's actual trash. The bags are labeled saying trash. Cardboard. We don't have a recycling station or anything there. So we took over this Warrior program back in 2016, and our donations have increased immensely since then. In 2016, which was a partial year, about 9 months we had the program, we gave away $72,000 worth of items back to our JBER community. 2017, it increased. We gave away about $95,000. In 2018, we don't have our final numbers yet, but we were on track for about the same amount, another $95,000. So we are doing that with an average of 3 to 4 people in our shop on a daily basis. We desperately need more volunteers, whether it be soldiers coming on their lunch hour. Just if you can come in for 30 minutes, an hour, we will gladly take you. We just need more hands in our shop. Anybody have any other questions?
So, if I can, my sergeant major, who's not here, unfortunately, he works pretty close with Joe and the folks in the thrift store. I'd say almost weekly he's swinging by there. This is a problem. So there's a couple issues with the thrift store, right? So we've got a population both on and I suspect off base that see the business model of the thrift store as the way to get around having to pay to go put a refrigerator in the dump. So yes, Army soldiers with an ID card can go and access the dump at Eagle River for free, but they're still going to charge you when you get rid of a household appliance, especially if it has, what they would consider to be hazardous material in it, Freon or whatever. Okay, so you're going to pay $25. So we have some folks that don't want to pay $25 but they want to feel good about donating something to the thrift store, and they think, oh, well, somebody could use this refrigerator that I can't use, that I can't repair. It's the thrift store's problem. It's not. It's a discipline problem. Our folks don't need to be doing that, and our volunteers don't need to be having to deal with that. And my sergeant major doesn't need to be having to find soldiers, every 2 weeks, take them away from mission readiness so that we can get the garbage that should be going to the dump in the first place to the dump. Okay, so we're a community, right? And there's all sorts of hands in this. We need more volunteers in the thrift store, cleaning out the good stuff, keeping that on the shelves and keeping that moving. We need our service members and our family members to understand that soiled underwear is not something that we're going to sell in the thrift store, so please don't bring that to us. You laugh, but we have examples of that. My sergeant major shot me a photo of 5,000 beer koozies that say U.S. Air Force on them that showed up on the loading dock of the thrift store. Now, maybe 10 of those would sell in the thrift store. Maybe there's 10 people out there that need a beer koozie, but I don't think 5,000 of them, the entire Stryker Brigade up north, does not need a beer koozie. So we know that that's not going to move. You're just cluttering up the thrift store. Okay? So it's kind of common sense in the community. We need more hands. We need people to be better disciplined. And so at the installation level, I'm asking our cops to swing by there. I can't post a sentry at the thrift store. It's not a good use of manpower. I don't have enough of them as it is for the gates or to do community policing. But we're asking them to swing by, and I can guarantee you this, when we catch the first person dumping trash in a refrigerator there, they're gonna get ticketed at the installation level. And it's gonna be painful, and we'll get the word out that way. But it's hard to catch. It's kind of dark and creepy back there, and if you go at 2:30 at night, yeah, you're probably gonna be able to dump your trash. So let's tighten up the shop group as an installation, as a community, care about this. Clearly, there's some goodness that comes out of the thrift store. $95,000 worth of stuff given to service members and their families that they could use. Repurposed stuff. My 4-year-old runs around in repurposed clothes up at Fairbanks, right? And I appreciate that I don't have to spend as much money for winter clothes because she grows, an inch every month, it seems like. Other people have that challenge here. So let's keep it going, okay? Any other questions about the thrift store? Go ahead.
Yes, can we get your name and contact info for volunteers again?
Yeah, share that if you want.
Do you want it to come out with the slides? Because everything is on our Facebook page, that's the easiest way to follow us. Just go register.
So if you could
that
just-
too, but can you just say it once more for anybody in here who's getting the word out?
Okay, my name is Joe Rocco, and the easiest way to reach me is 907-750-0008.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing. Again, it's the message is only as good if you send it out to your troops. So please say something to your service members, even though it doesn't even get back to their spouses, but at least you said something and it'll click.
All right, other issues out there. Come on, this is good.
Ma'am, I'll be right to you.
No. Really, we need you to use the mic because it'll allow the phone over in the corner to pick up the conversation.
My name's Maria. I live out in the valley. And this morning, we'll just do one example. We were on the side of the road coming into JBER Richardson on the emergency side of the road for 15 minutes. And it doesn't sound like a lot until you're parked on the side waiting for cars to zoom by you doing 65, 70 miles until we got to the actual Richardson exit. So, and that happens quite often, and I'm in a carpool, and it kind of worries me that somebody's going to slam into us because you never know if you're really on emergency. This morning it was a long, long line on both sides. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why Checkpoint Pride isn't open so we can get people completely off the road so we can actually hit the exit, but that seems like a safety issue to me.
You guys are hitting all my touch points today. I love the gates. Gates are hard business. I need 7 gates open, sir. You need to open the gate at 5:30 in the morning. I need more policemen at this place, sir. We need more policemen here. Here's the challenge, right? We don't have enough security forces to go around. We don't have enough MPs, security forces. We have a lot of gates. We have a lot of mission partners. No mission is more important than another. But quite frankly, we just don't have enough manpower. The Richardson Gate, why does it get backed up? Why don't we have Checkpoint Pride open anymore? Okay. When you look at what modern installations need to do now for gate runners, and you look at, you just rip from the headlines, recent gate runners and people that have conducted terrorist attacks on military installations, we need vehicle barrier systems. We don't have them on all of our gates. We have one, it's on the Richardson Gate. Unfortunately, when the Richardson Gate was designed, 20, 30 years ago, nobody predicted the mass migration that was going to take place to the valley for cheap housing. And the number of cars that were going to be coming from the north. So we don't have the dollars to move the Richardson Gate. The vehicle barrier system is at the Richardson Gate. That's an important security issue, and we're not going to change that, right? Checkpoint Pride, what we used to do a couple years ago, we're not going back to that. So what we are trying to do is solve the issue at the Richardson Gate by opening up a 3rd lane at the key times in the morning, which is PD time for pretty much for USARAC, is when I think we see this problem, which also coincides with when the AGR employees go out to the National Guard headquarters, okay? And they're coming in through Gulf 1, the Richardson Gate. What's that contingent on? That's contingent on a couple things. Weather, right? Timely identification by the folks at the gate that we need to open up the 3rd lane because it's starting to get backed up. It's contingent on the security systems that we use to check ID cards and make sure that they're working and we're moving quickly. And it's also contingent on uniformed employees being where they need to at the right place at the right time. Generally, the security forces are there. Sometimes we're waiting on the borrowed military manpower folks that are running the gates. Sometimes they're out there, they don't have the right clothing, it takes a little bit of time to get them where they need to be to run the gate. Again, what I'm identifying to you is kind of a wicked problem that there are a bunch of different factors for. Ideally, I don't want anybody on the backup, on the Richardson side. But unfortunately, there's some things that happen that we have to react to that we try to get that as quickly as possible. We've increased the signage up there, right? Saying, hey, we have a 3rd lane now. This is where you can expect to go. We had a 3rd lane, but it wasn't well advertised. People weren't using it and expecting it to be open. And now we're trying to man that thing to keep it open so that we can keep the stuff flowing. But it's hard. I would tell you, yes, it's a safety issue, but there are other installations that have the same challenge. Try going to San Antonio at PT time in the morning and see how the highways get stacked up there. They have the same issue. There's a civility problem we have with our drivers, right? I mean, there's social issues, there's physical infrastructure issues, there's resourcing issues. The installation's getting at it as best as it can, but I need your patience to some degree. I need organizations that are on the gate to be there on time to man the gate with the borrowed military manpower, right? I need NCOs checking to make sure that service members are in the right uniforms, okay, so that we're not putting people at risk when the temperatures dip too low. And I need people to slow down a little bit, put their head on the swivel, okay? But one thing I can't do, based on the fact that we have some very important assets on this gate, is say, hey, we're going to blow off the requirements for security on a modern installation. We're not going to use the vehicle barrier system. What do you want to pick? It's a balancing act, right? The vehicle barrier system at Gulf 1 is an important aspect of that. It's how we can immediately stop somebody who accesses the gate, who we don't know what their intent is, but we know that they haven't complied with instructions. To do that means we're not going back to Checkpoint Pride. Does that answer your question? Okay, what's next?
My name is Dusty Finley. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff for U.S. Army Alaska. And I wanted to follow Colonel Lang's comments by stating that as of the 10th of February, the 4th Brigade, the Airborne Brigade here, is going to begin providing manpower at the Arctic Valley exit or egress point between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock each day during the weekday to help people get off post and help improve the flow of traffic as it leaves the installation.
Okay, so another convenience item, right? We want people to get off, you know, in a timely manner. We realize that there's a bunch of folks that need to go south. We want this Arctic Valley gate open, but we don't necessarily have the manpower for it, so, hey, USARAC, can you help us out? Can you give us a body? Again, those are people that could be doing a mission-related task that we have sitting at a gate. You guys have asked for it. We've, seen the complaints in ICE, and we've gone to USARAC, and thankfully they're going to help us support it. But we're going to go with it for now. We'll see if it works. All right.
That's great. It's good discussion. This is exactly what we were looking at getting after here, right? Trying to address concerns, questions. Some of it's education, some of it's straight up, wow, we don't have an answer to that, right? So far we haven't gotten there, right? A lot of these topics, there are things that have been worked on for quite a while and are challenging still to this day. So, anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? We're just about ready to wrap up, but you got something pressing? Okay. Oh, absolutely. Right behind you.
Hi, I'm Nikki Way. I'm the 673rd Air Base Wind Key spouse. I did get an email recently saying that the COLA surveys have been extended until the 13th of January. So it's a voluntary survey, but I think it would be help out if we can get as much participation as possible.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I actually I had that on my notes and I didn't bring those, so I was going to mention that. So yeah, it has been extended. So if you're a uniformed service member, one per household, please do that survey. All those data points really calculate into, when I was in uniform, obviously they calculate into the amount of the extra stipend you get up here as it relates to cost comparison in the lower 48, right? So if we have enough people do the survey, put accurate information in there, we'll make sure that we get accurate output from that. And ideally, things aren't more expensive up here, so we get reimbursed, or I guess the stipend in accordance with what is fair, right? So if we don't get enough feedback on that, that can go sideways on us. So if you haven't done it, please do. If you have done it, awesome. Encourage other people to do that. We have until the 13th to get it wrapped up. Yes, ma'am.
Can you make an amendment to yours? Say you realize a large expense hasn't been included.
All right, that's an awesome question. I'm not the comptroller, is it? Does anybody?
Can you repeat that, Chief?
Yeah. So the question was, if you've done your survey, submitted it, which is awesome. Thanks for that. But if there's something that you might have omitted that's a significant expense that's kind of unique to here, maybe you didn't think of it at the time, can you go back and amend that survey? I don't know that that's possible. I will see if I can find out. Anybody from the comptroller, anybody smart on that issue? That I think once you hit send on that, it's kind of gone. My experience with those kind of surveys.
We'll take that question and ask Chief Manalastas, who's the installation rep for the living pattern survey. I think Gary is right that we probably can't. Although I can't tell you that there's so many people that have not taken the survey. You could probably account for that with somebody who takes the survey, perhaps, and people that can still take the survey, but we'll run that down. I don't think so, but maybe. We owe you the answer.
Right. I would just say if you know what that is, if you could communicate that so others don't omit that kind of thing, that would be great, because then we have the opportunity to make sure at least it gets accounted for and is part of that calculation. Okay, fair enough. We'll take that back, and if we'll try to communicate that out through, or maybe you can put a note in the slides when we post them later on. All right. Yes, sir. One more thing.
Sorry. I'll get you. Sorry about that. All right, so one last note for everybody in the crowd. Last night I had my 4th water line break in 2 days in facilities, okay? I'm pointing this out because I need you to make sure you're closing your doors and closing your windows in those facilities. Those water line breaks have happened in facilities that affect all of us on JBER. All of our airmen, all of our soldiers, all of our coasties, all of our Navy folks here, they have affected all of us because they've been in dining facilities, barracks, and dormitories. So when we have those water line breaks, We're talking that the Iditarod dining facility on JBER is going to be down a couple days for allowing folks to eat in there now because it is completely flooded out in the main floor, is what happened last night, okay? So as the temperatures continue to drop over these next couple days, please, please, please make sure that you're securing those doors and making sure that all your windows are closed. For my Aurora housing partners in here, if you are going to leave your house for an extended period of time, please make sure they know it is okay to leave a faucet going at a slow trickle. It will keep your pipes from freezing up, and it will keep Aurora Housing from having to come out and try and fix your water line and put you in a TLF for weeks on end while they try to dig that up in the winter. Trust me, it's not fun because I help them. And then on top of that, it'll keep your stuff in your home from being damaged. So keep that in mind. It happens all the time up here as we hit these negative temperatures that we're going to start seeing again tomorrow, that people forget about those little things. Leave the cabinet doors open, run the water at a slight trickle, and you'll keep your pipes from freezing up in your houses. All right, thanks.
Thanks for that tip, sir. So I had this slide up here, so most of you all probably read it by now. Look for those CAC slides to be posted sometime, maybe tomorrow at the latest, out there on our JBER homepage. If you look on the quick links on the right-hand side, look for Community Action Council. One click will get you to these slides. There's several behind us on the order of about 40 that we're not going to look at, but there's good information in there. So please grab that, share that link with your counterparts in your networks. As you can see there, on the 14th of February, it happens to be Valentine's Day. We didn't plan it that way, but we'll be back in here at 9:30. And then if you need to coordinate with or communicate with myself or Sergeant Beck, that org box right there is a great way to do that. That link is also on that site. So I'm going to get off the stage, turn it over to Colonel Lang for wrap up here.
Okay, thanks. Hey, before we do, anything from the Facebook side or the online piece of this, any questions?
No, sir. We haven't seen anything.
Okay, all right. Again, I would offer that up. There's some folks that can't attend this thing, maybe because they can't physically get in, but we're posting this online. We'll take questions from online as well. We'll get that discussion going if there's issues out there. Dusty, anything from USERAX or anything officially that you guys need to put out?
Would like to highlight that we'd like to welcome Brigadier General Day from the great state of Oregon. He's with the Oregon Army National Guard, and he's now an advisor to General O'Neill on total force issues. That's important to us because it provides us an additional perspective on how, one, better to train our soldiers, and two, maintain our force and our families.
All right, sir, welcome. Okay, any other state rounds alibis? Again, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming. The purpose of this kind of going forward CAC is we're going to talk about, contentious issues, right? So it's not going to be happy topics like we used to parade up here with a cavalcade of slides. You'll get all that in the slideshow. This is really the place to talk about sticky booger issues for the installation. And some of them are hard. Some of them we could throw a ton of money at, we're still not going to fix. Some of them will take, time. But we'll get after them. Part of this is two-way conversation. We need to know what you need, what's sticking in your craw, and what we can get better at. Okay? So thanks for coming.
Please feel free to